guys, this is gonna be a reading on how people are gonna react to your death and how they're gonna recall you after you die, like after you're dead, like years later, how they're gonna be like thinking about you and stuff. And this is gonna be more spiritual, emotional vibes, but I am gonna do a reading on what it's gonna be like to be at your grave and the physical vibes. So if you feel like you're more attuned to that, you probably shouldn't watch this reading, like the physical vibes of your death, but this is gonna be more spiritual, emotional vibes of your death. So first pile is this mushroom, this amanita muscaria. Amanita. Some of your names might be Amanita, or Amanita is just a really pretty name. I like the way this is shaped. Sure. And the second pile is this waist chain pendant, and I wonder if I can show you the little details on this. There's like little suns and moons engraved into the circle, and then if I shine like a light there, like this a little purple gem, it might be a garnet, I'm pretty sure, or an amethyst, but yeah. And the third pile is gonna be this clown. His name is Kirkpatrick. Me and Tyler came up with that name for him. And his soul is trapped in this clown doll because he wasn't funny enough and a witch turned him into a doll. And it's super sad. So yeah, take time and meditate or whatever, you know. At pile 1, if you chose the Amanita muscaria, it's gonna be your reading. Oh, mushroom person. Maybe your death is gonna be like kind of smooth or easy for you. I don't know if that makes sense, but I feel like fungi is sort of like representation of life through death, you know? And I feel like maybe you go through a lot of ego death in your life or something, so when you do die, it's like not too hard for you. But today we're gonna be using the Mother Peace Tarot by Karen Vogel and Vicky Noble. Okay. Spirit, tell me about. Oh, tell me first how others are gonna react immediately to pile 1's death. So we got the Tower. But it also came out in reverse. So a little bit reversed, a little bit upright. I immediately heard we saw that coming, or I saw that coming, or something like that. So either like for some of you, you were being reckless before your death and people were telling you to like chill out, but then like something happened and they were like, oh no, they were like right there, but I could have done something to help them, but I didn't. But then for others of you, it's like I feel like somebody knew you were gonna die because they had something to do with your death. But that's only for some of you. Spirit, what's up with that energy? Some of you might have energy vampire in your life that you should like steer clear from. Not necessarily because them in particular would cause your death, but because someone they know or associate with, or by knowing them you would meet down the line. So like just be careful with the energy vampire in your life for some of you feel right now. Also just watch out for energy vampires because they can lead you to your death is what I'm hearing. But I'm also hearing that, whoa, okay, so like, I don't know, a lot of people know you that you don't know you, and they be like reacting to your death like they know you, but they don't actually know you, but they're like reacting to your death like, oh my god, they're dead, and they're like mourning and shit, but you don't even know this person or these people. I'm hearing that some people be reacting like, oh, they would have died the way they wanted, or like they would have died, or they would have been happy the way they die, or they like, I don't know. A lot of people react to your deck really strongly because we got magician. We got magician. We got tower, so that's 2 major arcana. Not only is it quite a few people who are like shaken by your death, they're like really shaken, like extremely shaken. Like it like turns their whole world upside down for some of them. Like some people really care about you and your death. They're gonna be really like, yeah, I don't know, you just like, people who didn't even think that they cared about you like that are gonna be like mourning your death really hard and not knowing why for some of you. Yeah. How else people can react to foul and death? Somebody's gonna be, okay, yeah, either somebody's gonna be like trying to prevent you from dying, or trying to like revive you, or trying to take you to a hospital even though it was futile. Somebody's gonna be trying to like, there's a lot of like fighting back energy. Like people didn't want you to die, people mad you dead, people speaking against your death, they're speaking out about your death or how you died, or they're just talking about it a lot. Like people really not able to accept your death. Not all. It's like immediate reaction is like denial, anger, denial and anger. It's like, because we have Ace of Disc here, And it's like everyone knows that, like, they realize upon your death that, like, their whole world is going to change because you die, because now they're going to be mourning, and they can, like, see all of it before them. They're like, everything is different now. It's like literally everything is different because you die. I hear a light is taken away, like some people reacting like a light went out in their life. Somebody gonna be bursting into tears and like thinking about you as a child, or thinking about the times they had with you when y'all were younger together. Like, somebody gonna be looking back on either childhood photos of you or that they have, or just old photos in their phone or on their laptop or something that they have saved of y'all together. It's just like, there's just a lot of crying, like intense crying, like purging of energy. It's like suddenly like they're crying about you, but they're also crying about everything else in their life, and it's all coming out at once. It's like your death is gonna happen at a time where people are just like not really, a lot of people are not gonna be tuned with their emotions really, but then it's gonna like all come pouring out of them for some reason. I guess one more card on how people react to your death. Ace of Swords. We have, okay, that's so interesting because we have, first of all, we have 111. We have Ace of Discs, Ace of Swords, and number 1, the Magician, the freaking major arcana. And the Tower on top of that energy is just like new beginnings, but very different new beginnings. Very, very different, very stark change, and very quick, very fast, quick change. So it's like your death gonna have a rapid domino effect, like extremely rapid. I'm hearing the word of your death is going to get around extremely fast. Like it's going to travel down the grapevine like fucking rain. Extreme mourning, extreme rethinking of people's eye. Like immediate reaction is like rethinking their last interactions with you, or rethinking how they interacted with you in general throughout your life, rethinking y'all's relationship, rethinking how they're going to live now that you're gone. I don't know. It's just very intense. Forcing people to take a new state of mind and like see clarity. It's like, because people react so intensely to your death, it's like they can't push away any like doubt or like negative patterns within themselves. It kind of shines a light on everything. I don't know if that makes sense, but it kind of forces them to look at themselves and like truly see why your death affects them so much. And I'm also hearing like truly see like how beautiful, like and amazing of a person you were. It's like some people are just then realizing how beautiful you were and that they were taking you for granted. For granted. Yeah, people see your death as a burden. Like immediate reaction is like, I don't know what I'm gonna do. Like an emotional burden. Like they know they're never gonna get over your death, and they're constantly gonna be emotional about it, no matter how long it's been. And I guess guess we can do a little bit after. This is sort of still a sort of immediate reaction because I feel like the next part is going to be more like years later on. But I'm guessing for just like the funeral now, what's it going to be like? Some people aren't going to be able to go to your funeral because they're going to be too fucked up, too messed up, too emotional, I guess. Like they're alone, and that's how they're mourning you. And yeah. But for the funeral itself, there's some good things and there's some bad things. It's just like some people are really negative, really in their head, really bad, like blah. Oh, don't even, yeah, but and then other people are like undergoing spiritual ego death or something. Like it's like completely transforming their world and completely making them rethink themselves. We got 4 swords, 9 of cups, 2 of pentacles, daughter of pentacles, 5 of cups, but I don't feel like showing y'all the 5 of cups. I'll just describe it to you. It's just a bunch of crap, or it's like a bunch of little sand dollars in little pots. But they're living sand dollars. They got little legs coming out of them. They might be crabs. Some kind of sea creature. And 5 little pots. So that's 5 of cups. And then 8 of wands. I'm hearing somebody gonna be talking about your relationships. A lot of people talking about your funeral. I mean, obviously you're gonna be the topic of interest, but a lot of people talking about your relationships or their relationship to you, or they're talking about how much of a live wire you are, how much of a star you were, how bright you were, or something like that. Or how people talking about the impact you had on their lives. People talking about the impact you had overall. Like, daughter just giving me that you had a strong impact on the material world. Or just a lot of people, and people will be talking about that, like whatever you left behind in the material world as sort of like what your soul said before it was like, I'm out of here. Something about your message was really important or really had a lot of clarity to people. I'm gonna be talking about that at your funeral. For some of you, some people be talking about money at your funeral, like the money they're gonna inherit from you. Like, I'm hearing, oh, luxury. Like, bro, this is not a time to be thinking about that shit. What the fuck ever, bro. Yeah, a lot of people at the funeral are gonna be frustrated because they know that a lot of people at your funeral don't actually care about you. So a lot of just randos at your funeral, I guess, or people who didn't actually care about you but want to pretend they did, or like sort of did, but they didn't actually treat you well, but they want to like act like they care now that you're dead. But I'm feeling with this 5 of Cups that like there are like a few people 4 or 5 people that like were true to you and you were true to them. It's just like it really affects them deeply, and they're just like, I feel like those few people are going to be sort of gathering around each other the most at the funeral because they're sharing that same energy of mourning you, in the most like pure way, I guess. It's just like really thinking back on the memories and really thinking about, it's like there's so much energy people think about what they did wrong to you. Like maybe people really put you down or really treated you wrong in your life, and now that you're dead, they're like wishing they had treated you better. Or it's like, but for others of you, it's like they're wishing that they could have been more of an individual and been more reassured and confident within themselves, so that they could have come forward in a relationship to you better, and they're regretting that and not being able to share those moments with you because maybe some people were nervous around you or they had misgivings about you, and then they realized that they were wrong. And for others, where they're just, they love you, they miss you, they love you, they miss you, and that's all. And I don't know, they're thinking back on all the memories, all the things you said, all the things you said, running through my head. Yeah, just a lot of thinking. 'Cause 4 swords, thinking lots. Like, even though everybody's at the funeral together, everybody feels sort of alone in their thoughts of you and their perception of your death. Because even though everybody's sharing their thoughts about you and sharing their perception of your death, they're like, everybody experiences it so differently. It's so weird. Okay. So, just how people are gonna recall you years later. Some people are gonna be tripping and thinking about you, or they're just gonna be drinking and thinking about you. But for some of you, it's they're gonna be tripping and thinking about you, and like, yeah, like literally like taking drugs and thinking about you. That's what I meant. Let's see. Got the Lovers. The Lovers. A lot of people thinking about the affection you gave them and the love they shared with you. You're a very loving person in your life. People thinking back to all those memories of how like loving and affectionate you are. Very fond of those memories. Very fond. People think about you when they're connected to their inner child. People recall your death as like transformative for them, like it transformed their mind and made them see a different perspective. I'm hearing for some of you it made some people more respectful in like the way they talk to people or the way they interact with people. Yeah. Like your death sort of taught some people a lesson or some shit. We have the Hangman. There's so much major arcana in this reading. We have the Hangman here with the Lovers. So I'm getting that people never really get over your death. I'm serious about that. Like, no matter how many times they think about it, no matter how many times they like think they've moved on, they've gotten over it, they like 30 years later after your death, they still like end up sobbing, breaking down over it. And I don't know. it really makes people think about what's important, you know, like when they recall your death later on like that, and they're more you know, used to that experience of like mourning you. It really makes them focus more on what's important in life, and like realize when you're just being wasteful with life or not being grateful. I'm feeling like we only need one more card for this. We have the World. Some people thinking about how motherly you were, like when they're a mother or a father or a guardian like that, they recall you and your death to sort of ground themselves on how they should be and the important things that they should be focusing on instead of like the negative thoughts. Because just thinking of you in general reminds people of like a very open-minded spiritual vibe. Your death was karma for some people, so it's like the universe sometimes makes them recall your death, or like literally like puts a specific sign to remind them of your death or something like that, so that they like get back on track and are like reminded of that earlier pain. But yeah, that's your reading power. Hi Patu. If you chose this waist pendant, this is gonna be your reading. And how people gonna recall your death instantly, and then at your funeral, and then years later on. Spirit, give me the messages for pile 2. Top, are others gonna react to their death immediately? We have 8 of disc. So a lot of people you've worked with are going to be strongly affected by your death. I'm feeling like maybe there was like a project you were in the middle of, and somebody's going to be like, oh, this is unfinished work, or this is unfinished business, or now that they're dead, we can't finish this. There's like this energy where like no one really knows for sure why your death happened or how it happened. It's like everybody's talking about it and everybody's making up their own story about why or how it happened, but nobody really knows. They each have their own like immediate instinctive like reaction to it. I'm feeling maybe your death is going to be a source of a lot of controversy or something, because like there's a lot of conflicting views on the immediate reaction of your death. What else for pile 2? How people are going to immediately react. We have Ace of Discs. And we have 8 of Cups. I'm seeing like your death affecting children or a specific child strongly. Or if it's not that, people's immediate reaction is like you died too young, or they still felt like you were a child. Wasn't you're like they're just shocked because they felt like you were still a child. Like, how could you already die? Some people's immediate reaction is like, who's gonna take care of your pets? Who's gonna take care of the shit you had going on in your house? Who's gonna take care of all your stuff that you were in the middle of? Maybe prior to your death, you were burning a lot of bridges and creating a lot of stability for yourself. And people are thinking about how, like, maybe someone didn't like that and that affected your death. Like, they affected your death. I'm feeling this energy for some of you that someone had, like, an effect on your death to where they could have changed the outcome, but they didn't. It wasn't like a direct effect, it was indirect, but they still feel like guilt over it. Like, when they hear you're dead, they're like shocked. It's like a shock to their system and they're a little guilty. At the bottom of the deck we have 8 of Wands here. And which is interesting to me because there's 8 of Wands, 8 of Disc, and 8 of Cups. So we have 8 here. So maybe your death has like it's going to continue to affect people for a long time. Like, I'm hearing the kind of death that lives on forever. Like, you will be long remembered well after your death, possibly for your work or the people you knew, are going to like write about you or something. I'm also feeling like your death sort of feels all-encompassing in that it like continues to come to mind to people like well after you're gone. You just sort of seem to linger in everything. Like if somebody looks at a painting or anything like that, like or listens to music, they were reminded of you. So like people's immediate reaction is like they know. It's like they feel that you're not really gone, almost like you're still all around them. But I'm also feeling like people's immediate reaction is like pile 2 moved on. Pile 2's moved on from this world. Like maybe there's something that was happening prior to your death that you were like struggling to move on from, but like upon your death you would like come to terms with it or something at some point. And people are like talking about that, like their immediate reaction is like this happened because pile 2 finally moved on from something. Also people's immediate reaction is just very emotional. Like People are in a place when you're dead, when you die, where they can't really afford to be emotional, so they kind of have to push that away. And they're forced to move on, basically, by the universe is forcing them to move on. So it just puts them in this position where they can't really mourn about it. They can't be a pity party about it. They kind of just have to emotionally come to terms with it and the reality of it. And also, people's immediate reaction with this Eight of Wands is to like talk about it. Like they're going telling their mom, their friend, they're going telling everybody, and they're like just gushing about your death and, you know, all that stuff, and trying to figure out how they're going to cope with it. Or talking about the manner of your death in some sort. Like for some of you, there's some conspiracy surrounding the manner of your death. But I'm getting it's not really important. Like Spirit's saying it's not really important. It's more just gossip surrounding your death, based on the unknown factors. So for your funeral, let's see how are people going to be acting at your funeral. How are people going to be acting at your funeral? Acting, feeling. We have the Emperor. Let me get all the cards first, and then I'll shine a light on them. We have the Crown. Give me one more card for the funeral. Give me one more card for the funeral. Pile 2's funeral. Chill. We have the Sun. So your funeral's gonna be important for some reason, or something significant's gonna happen at your funeral, because all three of these are major arcana. We have the Sun, the Emperor, and then we have the Crown. So, there's a lot of energy of people having to like face the reality of your death at your funeral. Maybe if any of you had a conspiracy surrounding your death, then those things are going to be cleared up at the funeral. People are going to have a lot to say. There's going to be a lot of like eulogies written about you, very eloquent eulogies. I don't know. Maybe during these eulogies, people are like writing really deep realizations about themselves, and everybody in the room is relating to that, and it's like actually, you know, changing their mind very very deeply, very intimately. People are talking about your life path, or what you sort of left behind at your funeral, like sort of like the type of things you believed in and were passionate about. It's like you were a leader. People like thought of you as a leader. And they're like, well, who's gonna lead now? Who's gonna do it now? Like, with the Crown, I'm seeing that people, are going to be clearing up whatever misgivings there are about your death. I'm hearing judgment, so maybe there's going to be judgment call on maybe some people in your lives who could have contributed to your death, or could have contributed to the circumstances surrounding your death. I'm hearing that specifically for some of you. Some people talking about your spirituality and what your spirituality left behind, and maybe like your spirituality specifically about death and what you thought about mortality. People be talking about that at your funeral. People are reminiscing on trips they had with you, like drug trips, or just parties they had with you, or things they did with you that were like fun like that. With the sun here, I'm feeling like you were definitely an intense, important part of a lot of people's lives. So everybody's passionate about your death. Like everyone at the funeral was like holding up a freaking stick for you, pile two, because like everyone sees you as part of their inner child, part of their inner light, sees you as a reflection of their inner child and inner light. I'm hearing for some of you, this is only for a small bit of you, but some of you, the people you know will be like partying at your funeral is almost like an homage to you, because they know you that you wouldn't want it to be sad. And so they're going to be partying and thinking about you. That's only for some of you though. I'm hearing that your funeral, like the actual like you being put into the grave or whatever, or for some of you aren't going to be put in a grave, but just the weather surrounding your death is going to be pretty sunny, pretty bright, and it's going to kind of bother people is what I'm hearing, is that like they feel like the weather isn't suitable for your death. I'm hearing it's the circle of life, so maybe some people are coming to terms with like life and death and mortality in the circumstance, like surrounding your funeral. Like people are like really, like there's a heavy energy of acceptance about your death, or like truth and light, things coming to light, things coming to clarity. There's not a lot of conflict at your funeral. The only conflict is for some of you, gossip needing to be cleared up. But other than that, it's just like a lot of major things coming to light. Let's see what else. Now, what will people recall of Pal 2 like years later? What are they going to recall about Pal 2 later on, once the death has like soothed the shock impact? So we have Ace of Wands, or Ace of Swords, I'm sorry, Ace of Wands and Ace of Swords. And then we have Two of Swords. So ew, that's kind of gross, but Spirit's saying it's okay for me to tell y'all. So for some of you, your past sexual partners you've had or something like that are going to be like dating someone else or fucking on someone else, and they're still going to be thinking about you even after you died, and they're like reminiscing on how good, how hot you were or whatever. Like, it's like, but yeah. But also for some of you, it's just like when people are like getting creative breakthroughs for whatever passion they have, it reminds, like they're reminded of your death, or just reminded of you in general, and they sort of just get this burst of energy of like happiness and like feeling like they're meant to be there. maybe your energy reminds people of success or of achievement or of being your true self, being who you want to be. And it's like when people are achieving that feeling of success or self-fulfillment, they're thinking about you. For some of you, they're thinking about how they wish they could share that with you. Or show you that you helped them get there. Like, if you hadn't been there for them, they never would have believed in themselves like this. People still don't stop being angry about your death, like, even years later on. Like, there's just strong, intense emotions. Like, even years later on, it's just, like, very fiery emotions. This Two of Swords is just eluding me. So, when people are having a little bit of a hard time coping with just the general stress of life, or their own mental issues or trauma, they tend to fall back into regressing and thinking about your death and the pain that caused them. For some of you, people recall you years later when they're getting back into the flow of things, and they're just feeling themselves, basically, just like getting into the flow of themselves, and it reminds them of you for some reason, because you would always sort of be in flow with yourself. Yeah, you still inspire people, like, way long after your death. Like, you make people want to, like, be in balance, I mean, and keep the flow going, the flow of the universe, the energy of the universe going. Right? You just inspire people like a muse or motivation. For some of you here, you might actually end up being a muse for someone who has creative passions. And that's how they sort of recall your energy after your death, years later after your death, is they like create art about you so that that sort of part of you lives forever. And we have Ace of Swords. I can't really see it on the camera, but this person has a little ring on their hand. So I'm feeling like if you have like a partner or someone you're like deeply attached to or bonded to, they're gonna be recalling you years later with like an air of truth and clarity and remembering you no matter how long it's been. Just remembering you in the same light and the same beauty. I'm feeling like people are gonna be trying to talk to you after your death, like mediumship, Ouija board. Like it's as silly as things like a Ouija board or even paying to talk to a medium or a tarot reader. There's this energy that even like years after your death, people feel like you and your death contributed to how much they changed in life or who they became in life or the things they created. Even years later, people are in their head, they're like, I'll never forget Pile 2. I'll never forget Pile 2. They tell people about you, they're like, yeah, I'll never forget Pile 2 or what they did for me. They always recall you fondly, or just like talk about you in a way that's like actually true to who you are. People talk a lot about, like, years later after your death, people talk a lot about your successes and what you brought to the world and the clarity that you brought to the world and the universe and that you brought to their lives. There's like this great stress on you having existed being very important, not only to them as an individual, but to everyone, the whole world. Like, that's how people talk about you years after you're gone. Hi, pile 3. If you chose this Mardi Gras clown that I got from the Salvation Army, this is going to be your reading. So, Spirit, tap into the energy of pile 3. Give me pile 3's energy, pile 3's timeline, pile 3's higher self, pile 3 guardian angel. What's going on here? How others react to pile 3's death. How people can react to pile 3 dying. How else people gonna react? We have the Magician. God, I don't know how to fucking... Goddamn. We have the Three of Wands. We have the Daughter of Cups. We have the World. So, people who react to your death, they're not ready for it. It's just like, people are already tired, already exhausted by whatever's going on in their life, and then your death hits. And it's like just the cherry fucking on top. And it feels like everything is going wrong. Like, it legit feels like the end of the world for some people. Like, it feels like something is really wrong and something bad is gonna happen to the whole world. There's a lot of panic energy. Like, some people having panic attacks, some people having anxiety attacks, some people just freaking the fuck out, like tripping the fuck out, like unnecessary levels and amounts. There's a lot of alarm surrounding your death, a lot of general alarm and disquiet and disharmony and it's like I keep hearing something bad's gonna happen, something bad's gonna happen. Like, people are reacting to your death as if it means there is going to be bad things coming. I'm hearing for some of you, a parent or a guardian of some sort is going to be having some major regrets about how they treated you as a child, and like major guilt. Lots of guilt and remorse at the same time, they're like, why couldn't I die? Why couldn't I be the one who died so I don't have to deal with this anymore? Somebody's going to be blaming you for your death. Their immediate reaction is like being angry at you and being like, oh, they did that on purpose. They did that for attention, or they did that for this, or they did that for that. So that's really fucked up. Unlike the other piles, it's going to be a lot more clear how your death happened. Like, it's going to be pretty clear from the evidence just how the death happened, but people are looking at the evidence and they're just not processing it. It's like they're only seeing your death the way they want to, or how it fits into their life. Some people are using your death as a way to victimize themselves. With the Magician, I'm feeling like people are worried, like their immediate reaction is, okay, like where are we going to get our money from? Where are we going to get our art from? Where are we going to get our magic from? Like somebody is relying on you for your creativity or your love. Somebody was planning on having a future with you and their immediate reaction is like their dreams, their plans, their ideas being crushed. I'm also hearing they're in a better place now, so it's like this energy where people are like, oh, they're better off dead because maybe something was happening in your life that was putting you in a lot of danger, or you didn't realize you were in danger, but you really were, and dying was like kind of the better option, which is weird. I don't know. I'm just like, these people are really anxious. Like, your death, immediate reaction, anxious, anxiety, like something's wrong. Anxiety. Like, something's wrong. Like, it's like people never expected you to die. It's like they thought you were larger than life or something. But like, now that you're dead, they're like, is God even real? It's like so dramatic. So dramatic. And with the world here, I'm feeling like the whole world knows. I'm hearing like the whole world knows. The whole world knows. So I'm guessing just a lot of people are going to be reacting to your death immediately, or is it just going to be... However your death happens, everyone is going to find out at the same time. And so it's sort of like a collective reaction almost. Everybody's looking at each other horrified, like, oh my god, like complete shock, complete anxiety. I'm hearing, oh shit, we fucked up. Which sounds really dark, so I don't know why they're thinking that. They're like, if somebody dies and you think, oh, I fucked up, like, that's not okay. But, let's see. So, what's going to be happening at Pile 3's funeral? What's going on at Pile 3's funeral? Lots of gossip for sure. Lots of gossip. Just about anything and everything, really. But what's going on at Pile 3's funeral? What's going on at Pile 3's funeral? We got Priestess of Swords. Got Priestess of Swords. We got Temperance. And we got Three of Cups. So, definitely your friends are going to be attending your funeral. It's not really going to be a quiet funeral. There's going to be a lot of talking, a lot of things going on. Your funeral is definitely going to be a gathering. I'm also hearing like somebody's going to be talking about how they had a dream that you died before it happened. Like they literally had a dream of you dying the exact way you died. But they didn't think that it was real. People talking about at your funeral some sort of message that you still were trying to get out, that you still needed to get out before you died, that you didn't get the chance to get out. Or maybe it's not that. Maybe they're just saying like, oh, I wish I could have known what pile 3 thought about this, or thought about me, or thought about our relationship. I wish I could have asked them before they died. Because I'm hearing like unsent messages. Maybe somebody's regretting not talking to you, and they're either telling other people about that at the funeral or just thinking about that at the funeral. I feel like somebody's going to voice the fact that, like, it feels like a bad omen. Like, your death feels like a bad omen. Like, it means, like, something bad's gonna happen. Or the manner of your death is, like, a bringer of bad things. Like, maybe the circumstances surrounding your death were unfair or unjust. And so karma is coming back like a bitch. And people are talking about that. They're like... It's like they don't even know exactly what what it is. But it's just like they can feel the energy. They're just like, it feels like something's bad, something's wrong. With this Temperance, I'm feeling like people are looking at your art or videos you've made or journals you've written or your social media posts, something like that. Like, people are looking at that and talking about that at your funeral, and they're like looking for secret hidden messages or something about you. Some people are at your funeral and they're puking. They're like crying so hard that they're puking, or they're puking from anxiety, or they're puking from fear, or mourning, or guilt, or grief. Maybe some people did have something to do with your death, and they like feel guilty about it upon your death, but like around the time of your funeral they're just going on with their lives like nothing happened, or having a blast as if nothing's wrong. And it's like they don't even know that karma's just waiting just around the corner, just around the horizon. And it's like they're off in their own fantasy world thinking that they like could get away with it, or that they wouldn't have any consequences for indirectly affecting your death. I keep like seeing a table full of food, so maybe there's gonna be like cooking at your funeral, like maybe somebody's gonna cook your favorite dish or something and everybody's gonna be reminiscing about how you used to eat that. Maybe some people don't even care about you, they're just eating the food at the funeral and like laughing and talking like nothing's wrong. But I just keep feeling this weird vibe, like even at the funeral, people know that like karma's going to, like they feel this energy of like darkness or like, I don't know. Because it's karma creeping. Karma can feel real scary when you don't see it coming. Like, even people who weren't involved with your death can feel the bad vibes of, like, the unjustness or the lack of justice. So this is how people are going to recall your death years later. Years later. Pile 3, years later. Death, years later. Feeling like at this point, whatever this bad karma looming was, it has been solved, and now whoever karma kicked in the ass is like all fucking regretting their actions and actually wishing they could have changed or done something different. But it's like I'm hearing there's no second chances. Like, you take a life and that's it, you know? I'm not saying that, like, somebody's going to kill you, but I'm saying, like, there is finality in the things you do, in the actions you take. And that's what people are sort of realizing, like, years later after your death, they're like, oh shit, like, that death is real, and it's final, and that's it. It's like they weren't taking it seriously before. Yeah, I got justice here. Literally justice, right as I said that. People are literally forced to take that shit seriously, to take life seriously because of your death. Even just recalling your death makes them feel guilty for not taking things seriously. When people are in nature, they recall your death. During Christmas time, when people smell like pine needles and stuff, they recall your death. Some people recall your death when they look at the snow, or when they smell incense, or when they see occult items or shops. How are people recalling pile 3 years later? We have 4 of Cups. And then we have Shaman of Swords. I love this card. I'm hearing no matter how many times they think through it, no matter how many times they've like logicalized the situation out, no matter how many times they've like simplified it in their minds, it's just thinking about you and your death and recalling that is always intense, is always emotionally deep, and it's never just a small thing. Like, people still can't simplify your death years later after it's happened. And so they kind of just have to force themselves to not get too caught up in their emotions and to sort of ground themselves. Because recalling you and your death puts people in a state of intensity to where they could just be swept up by the waves and the waters if they aren't keeping their balance. People recall you in a sort of melancholy or nostalgic way. Like, I'm hearing a 50-yard stare. People will be staring off into space thinking about you. I'm hearing like when people are abundant and they aren't in a state of like having to work and stuff like that, and they're just chilling and, you know, relinquishing in their harvest, or not relinquishing, I forgot the word, but just sitting back and relaxing like that, and they have time to think, you know, that's when they recall you. I'm hearing vacation for some of you. Like, people work year long and they don't think about you, but then when they finally sit down and have a vacation or have a day off, it's like they're thinking about you. People are going to think about you when they die. Like, I'm just hearing that. It's just like they are going to recall you when they die. So you might align with, how are people going to recall you when they die? Which is the reading I did before this one. I'm hearing your death is going to teach a lot of people just about mortality and death in their lives and what that means for them. And it'll sort of make them be able to handle death the next time it happens to them. If it like happens with a person in their lives again. And with the Shaman of Swords, I'm getting puking energy again. Just endless puking. So, recalling your death even years later makes people want to vomit. It makes people just want to purge their emotions or get this feeling out of them. Like, I'm hearing a wound that never closes. Like, it never stops hurting years later. Like, it still feels like a fresh wound, like freshly bleeding. It still feels like you just died yesterday. Like, even years later, they still haven't accepted the shock impact. There's still shock going on. For some of you, I'm hearing people years later are going to speak out about your death or speak out about the realizations that your death gave them, and that's sort of going to enlighten them and make them feel more lifted up and ascended because they're speaking in their truth and in their clarity, and they're also sharing your truth, Pile 3, because you sort of shed that light on them or shared that light with them. Also, Pile 3, I'm feeling like you were just this really trippy spiritual person in real life, and when people recall you, they recall those like weird, unconscious, unknown parts of life that they can't really control, and it makes them feel more comfortable with having a lack of control in their lives. It makes them feel more comfortable with the unknown. Like, I don't know, like even years later, people feel like you're watching over them. Like your death is almost, for some people, a comfort to them because they just remember those memories with you and they're like, I really loved Pile 3, or Pile 3 really loved me and I really felt loved and I really loved them and that really meant something in life, and like other stuff doesn't matter. And them dying made me realize that that's what really matters, is that love we shared, that relationship we shared. And it's very deep realizations like that that people go through, and they're like, they see how important that love was to them and how important it is to the whole world, and what it means in terms of that love is very coexistent with the existence of life and death. And without love, there would be no importance to those things.